Hello and welcome to Follow Everton. I'm Ryan and I'm here today with Steve and David to react to Everton versus Crystal Palace, which, as we know, was a dismal draw. Dave, I'm going to start with you. The dust has settled a little bit now on the game, and on reflection, huge 2 points dropped, isn't it? It's a disaster for the European hopes.
Yeah, it's not good, is it? We don't look like a top four side, never mind a Europa League side. I've watched the game twice now. I've watched it back a second time for my sins. And it wasn't much better watching, to be honest. I've got quite a few things that I wrote down about the game. I mean, for a start, I wasn't quite convinced on the lineup, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And I just feel like Everton never really got control of the game. It was always little half opportunities that really were, I mean, quite a few clear-cut opportunities were missed. And I think that was ultimately what cost us the game. Very frustrating.
Steve, were you happy with the lineup that Ancelotti picked with the three defenders and the sort of the fullbacks playing in midfield effectively? And yeah, I mean, it's done to try and accommodate the two strikers, but is it a bit counterproductive?
It just feels like we keep chopping and changing, so there's no consistency, which suggests that Carlo doesn't know what the best lineup is. But of course, we were dealt with the blow that Allen's wasn't in the lineup, and for me, he's a key player. If we're going to get the fullbacks pushing on, then we need Allen in the team because he's probably the best defensive midfield player in the squad, and I didn't think that was the problem with this performance. The problem was that we just didn't take our chances. We could have easily ended that game 5-1. And in some respects, it was a typical Everton performance, one that we've seen for the last 10, 15 years, one that we've grown up to watch week in, week out, because we play well, and then we just don't take our chances. And then the other end, we let a goal in, and we've seen it so many times, countless times. It's almost, you could write the script.
Well, yeah. it was like a mix of our season in one match. We had the clinical finish from Hammers. We had a few wasted chances. We had no control of the game, and we also had our what usually happens, a lapse in defensive error, and we give them a goal back. I mean, that's been happening all season.
I mean, it was soft at the end, wasn't it? But you could tell when they brought the sub on, you could just write the script. We should have been, Crystal Palace should have been dead and buried. They were there for the taking. We had chances galore in both halves. We could have easily finished that game 6-1 winners. Richarlison could have had a field day, should have had a hat-trick. It's frustrating to watch, but it's become so typical that here we are the next day and the dust is settled, and it's just like, well, that's just Everton, isn't it? It's frustrating, but it's kind of expected at the same time.
I mean, my little bugbear with the lineup, which I'd be interested to get your thoughts on, is the three centre backs and the balance there. Can that work without having Godfrey and Holgate either side of either one of Keane or Mina? Because ultimately, that third goal, the second goal for Palace, the equaliser, was down to Keane being in that very unfamiliar position and sort of dragging. He goes out for the ball and leaves a huge gap. So
what
I'm
it
just not
was a lack of awareness
that Keane is too comfortable playing that in that channel role.
Well, we'll go and we'll analyze the goal in a little bit more detail with some of the pictures that we're going to show you a little bit later. From my perspective, my initial thoughts on this was that those players, the ones that should have been scoring, are the ones that are going to be the first to hand in a transfer request and try and leave for not reaching their targets. And that really winds me up because Richarlison wants Champions League, but he'll go, we didn't qualify, I'm off. But if he's putting them away in this game, we win this comfortably, as Steve says, 4 or 5, goals to the good. So it's very, very frustrating. And I don't think that lineup works. I think when we've got two strikers who rely on crossing the ball and heading it in, who need service, why are we playing with no wingers? And the answer is because the wingers that we've got are crap. There's no way of, no two ways of, ways around that. They're just too inconsistent, Iwobi and Bernard. And so we don't have the options there. We have to play these fullbacks. But You know, when you're playing a team like Palace with the wingers, they want our fullbacks to come forward so they can expose that space and behind on the counter attack. They kind of wait for it. And the goal they scored actually is a prime example of that, where the fullbacks have been dragged out. I don't know whether that's my phone, sorry. The fullbacks have been dragged out, in that case, Godfrey, and left the space for the winger. And really that's what they came to do, and we let them do that. And I feel like extremely deflated because I do think that is top 4 gone. And I think we are a little bit of an embarrassment. I mean, if you look at that home form since November, it's disgraceful.
Well,
No other manager survives that.
Everton are only 2 points behind Liverpool with a game in hand.
But that's not the mentality to have. They've been pretty poor all season, home and away.
Well, it shows the expectation, the differences. But also, we need a bit of context. Crystal Palace are not a bottom club, and they had nearly 50% of the ball. They're 9 points, I think 9 points behind Everton. This was not going to be a gimme yet. We should really have finished the game off in the first half. Never mind.
They don't have anything to play for, Palace. They're not going to get.
They're a mid-table team they've got nothing to play for. They're not even motivated. They're not going to be fighting relegation. You're not going for top 6. I know what you're saying, Steve, but I looked at some of their recent games and they've got a lot of draws, but they get battered in a lot of the matches as well. They're just a nothing. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but they're pointless. They are the epitome of pointless in the Prem because they're unlikely to go down and they're not going to challenge. And these are the games that really wind me up that we just kind of throw away.
Some teams have to fill those voids, and there have been years where we've been that team as well, where we've been looking at maybe somewhere between 8th and 12th. And you know what? Our biggest problem has just been terrible home form. They showed a caption on Sky during the game showing it, and it was an embarrassing graphic. We would be top 4 if we had our away form at home. We don't deserve to be top 6, never mind with that home form. And it's got to be something that Carlo and the team work on, as well as strengthening in a few positions. We need a bit more firepower. We need a bit more guile in midfield. We're a bit predictable in places, and I think teams have sussed us out. This game wasn't about that. This game was just take your chances. 3 points are in the bag.
And move
the
on.
Chances were there.
Yeah. But Steve, we'd be higher than top 4 if we'd had anything near that home, that away form at home. We'd be fighting arguably for in the top 2 places because the away form has been exceptional and the home form has been diabolical. It's a miracle somehow that we're actually even having a conversation about top 4, top 6 because that home form it stinks. I mean, you look at the games, losing to teams fighting relegation, newly promoted teams like Palace, who, as I say, they're not going to, they haven't got the same level of ambition. So it is diabolical. And I honestly think if it was any other manager, people would be not tolerating this. And I think the reason he's getting away with it is because there's no fans in the ground. If this was happening with a full Goodison, people will be kicking off because he's got good players. And the system seems to change every week. The personnel changes every week. And I know we're going to talk about it in more detail, but I thought his substitutions were ridiculous. To bring on Gbamin, who hasn't kicked the ball in nearly 2 years, who just looked like a bit of a donkey in midfield. He's not fit yet. I mean, I know he's not going to get fit playing, with the kids or in training, but it was too risky substitution. And the Godfrey one, he's clearly had a knock from the under-21s. They brought him in. He didn't look fit. I mean, he's getting beaten every time. 1v1. He's all over the place.
I didn't understand why Holgate didn't get switched to the right-hand side to deal with Zaha and Godfrey could have gone to the left because all their threats were coming down that side.
Coleman did nothing wrong. I'm just going to bring Martin in on this. If you're still watching, Martin, our squad is full of cowards. Very few are prepared to pass forward. What do you think to that, Steve?
It is right. I mean, the thing is, it's always sideways and backwards passing. I mean, it doesn't help the fact that we keep changing the defense. The goalie keeps changing, and it's unsettled. We need to get to the stage where we're playing 6-10 games in a row with a similar back 4, back 5, back 3. So the fact that I can't even say that sums us up. There needs to be some consistency because there's not that many games. We're not in that many competitions, and we really should be. We've had 10 days off.
He's trying to keep everyone happy, and they actually, Steve, a lot of them have had a more than that because so many players didn't go on international duty. What have they been doing in this period? Alan's got another mysterious injury. Decore was seen. I think he might be doing some individual training. He can't come back quick enough. And just bring in Steve, friend of the channel. In totally agree. Stupid substitutions yet again. So I'm not the only one who thinks they were strange subs.
They
If
were
Coleman wasn't. Maybe Coleman's fitness was a problem, but bringing Godfrey on.
Coleman was actually arguably man of the match up to the point where he got subbed.
Yeah.
And I can only put it down to the fact he played 390 minutes for Republic of Ireland over the last week. He played the most football out of all our internationals. So I think he was tiring, but, you know, he just basically left Keane there on that right centre-back to deal with Zaha and Eze the whole time. And Carlo's idea was, well, we'll throw Godfrey in and he'll stop them coming 1v1. But he obviously wasn't match fit. You know, it just doesn't work.
I think, Basil, you've hit the nail on the head. He wasn't match fit. And the substitutions were the wrong time. But let's look at the bench. It was yet again embarrassing. Apart from maybe Josh King and Sigurdsson, it really is just players that are making up the substitutes bench. Nkuku, Virginia, Broadhead, John, and Tyra. And the fact is, most Evertonians,
anyone can get on that bench.
The thing is, you know that anyone could pretty much make the bench if you're in the squad. That just highlights the problem.
James will be off if it's like this, though. He must be thinking. Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, how much blame can you put on Ancelotti for the subs he made when he practically brought the players on that had like a name to them, you know, some value? You're not going to put John on, are you, if you're projecting the Kyle John, if you're protecting a 1-0?
It's the system, though. The system doesn't work because you saw the goal we scored came from an interchange on the left. Richarlison shifts over to the left, plays a 1-2 with Dean, I think, goes over to Coleman and, you know, then supplies Rodriguez, and that was a world-class finish. But it shows that you've got to have some interchange. The problem with Everton is that formation is so Sabutio-like. You've got two statues in defence who kick it side to side. They're looking for someone in midfield. Davis, other teams are happy for Davis to get the ball because they can just take it off him. He's so weak on the ball. He falls over. You know, he's not an elite footballer. They're happy for him to have it. So playing through midfield doesn't work. And then if you've got no outlet out wide, and I thought Calvert-Lewin had a stinker. You know, his hold-up play wasn't great. His finishing was diabolical. Richarlison, the same. Steve Ellie says 10 more minutes, we would have made a blind difference. Soon as Coleman came off, the goal came from down that side.
Yeah. I mean, actually, you could say something in the setup that the goal came from Dean and it eventually landed at Coleman. So it was because we had that stretched width that Coleman was free on the right-hand side to lay it back to James. But I just thought generally in our build that we were sluggish and slow. And the way that we lined up, we seemed to have everyone sort of through the middle, quite high up. Even your likes of Sigurdsson and Gomez seemed to be almost behind the striker, not coming forward to show for the ball, leaving the three centre-backs and Davies to basically build up on their own. I think that's very difficult. We almost looked like we were just going to play long ball at times.
I think we had too many defenders. I think we had too many people doing the same job, too many Michael Keane and Mina's statues in defence. Not enough midfielders who can play through, and no one with pace, no one who can cross the ball, no one with anything, you know, natural flair. Rodriguez trying to do everything on his own because he's a step above everyone on the pitch, but he'll be off if this is the players that he's got to play with. You know,
our chances were largely down to when we actually had some intent to pass the ball quicker and won the ball high up. Taking, for example, when Gomez won the ball high up. I don't know why we didn't do this more because Palace did not look comfortable on the ball when we pressed them. But that chance in the first half, Gomez won the ball and then he set that pass through. Richarlison just mucks it up. I mean, that was just the first of a catalogue of...
it up. But that's brainless from Gomez as well because he can see he's offside and he tries to play him through. Steve, do you want to run us through some of the key talking points from the first half that stick out in your mind? Obviously, that Gomez one where through on goal, and that sticks out to me.
Well, so the one where Gomez intercepts in midfield and puts, I think it was
An
Richarlison
offside
who's through
pass.
on goal. I mean, look, Richarlison should have buried that chance. There's no two ways about it. But you don't get those chances that easily in the Premier League. It was amazing. A lot of our chances came through the middle, and
Through their mistakes.
through the mistakes. We only had, I think, 3 corners in the match. So it suggested that we were predominantly playing through the middle, and our lineup did suggest that we would do that as well. Big chance. Also, big chance on Calvert-Lewin. I mean, any of these chances, really, the one through the middle and the Gladys Street, I mean, he should have just buried that. I mean, he's not on the same form he was at the beginning of the season.
Can't finish anything other than a tap in, unfortunately.
It's all confidence based, and you know, when you have the Midas touch, when you put every goal in the net, then you know you could go one off the back, one off the shoulder. Calvert-Lewin is having a relatively lean spell. I mean, he's still scoring an odd goal. He's doing okay. His hold-up play is amazing. But we need to put some pressure on the squad, and there needs to be more rotation. But yesterday we had 15 shots. And if you go back to one of the previous manager areas, without naming any, you'd be lucky to get that in about 5 matches. So we need context.
But I think that was the second time this season we've had that many shots. So we're not really doing that on a regular basis, are we?
It is, but it's wasteful finishing.
I think they need to go in for some 1v1 practice. I don't know how we're going to set that up, but it needs to be done because I think first half, the ones that glare out to me was Holgate long ball to Calvert-Lewin, who hits it straight at the keeper, has too much time, thinks about it too long. Richarlison was played in a through ball by Gomez, takes it round the player, and then just hits it low to the keeper. Second half, there was one, as Steve's just said, the Gladys Street, where it was just, he's just got to score it. It's just Calvert-Lewin just can't score unless it's in the 6-yard box or on his head.
Maybe that's going against him, and someone's told him that, and you know, you're a 6-yard poacher, and then all of a sudden, yeah, I am a 6-yard poacher, and I can't do anything outside it because that's what I am. And yeah, he's missed chances, and really, we should be sitting with 2 more points. We had more than enough to win the game. And it is infuriating. I mean, Steve, run us through the goal, Everton's goal. It was a nice build-up, and James himself is excellent, really excellent.
Yeah, it all starts down the left with Dingay and Richarlison combining beautifully, and then Dingay picks out Richarlison in the middle, and the keeper makes a good save, to be fair. But then Coleman managed to keep it in play, and it was a gorgeous finish from Richarlison, from Rodriguez, worthy of any match-winning goal. It shouldn't have needed to be the match-winning goal, and I thought we would build from that. But it was a stunning finish, and obviously he's got amazing shooting accuracy. What's great is the way that Rodriguez can, without really any backlift, get so much power on the ball, and he's always very accurate with the goals. We've seen some nice goals from him. I just feel like he needs a consistent run in the side, and obviously injuries have played their part. I hope we've not seen the best of him because he's clearly top quality.
Yeah, spot on. Basil, just bringing you in on that more with some of the media that we have to show you.
Yeah, I basically just picked out some frames of the match and just talk over them, but I don't know if they're going to take over the screen a bit too much, but yeah, they've taken over. But just wanted to point out here, the formation, you can see you've got James and Davies holding, you've got Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin looking for the box, but Coleman is pretty much isolated. I don't really like that. I want to see a formation where we can actually build up and give him the chance to get a cross in without having to get past 2 players.
And there you go. This is it. This just ties.
That's a brilliant freeze.
Steve, no crosses hardly came into the box on the win backs. I mean, Dave, do you put that down to the fact he's got no one to pass to there, and he's kind of just has to do it all on his own? And you have to blame Ancelotti for that. I'm sorry, because it's just he set the team up in that way.
Yeah, I think, well, he needs to get a man over, doesn't he? He needs a midfielder to support him. Davies is miles away, and he's obviously playing a defensive role, so he's probably not thinking, I've got to go and support. If it was Decore on the pitch, I mean, it's just if buts and maybes, then he probably gets a man to support him there, doesn't he?
Normally, our job is as fans to get those players over man on. And as you can see there, Davies looks like he's running over to Coleman, but he shouldn't be 20, 30 yards away from the play. And if you look at Man City, you would never see a frame like that from a Man City match.
Isolated.
They'd be close around.
No, not at all.
This is why I said it was like Sabutio, because if you saw on that last graphic, everyone's kind of in their set positions. Richarlison's the second striker. He should be floating around, I think, a bit more. He's got to come over to the left. He has to come over to the right. He has to be that link like you saw with Dean for the first goal. Or if it's not Richarlison and he's been told stay around the box, then it's got to be James or it's got to be Gomez. I mean, that's what they're in the team for. They're not in the team for defensive winning second balls, really. They're in there to try and create something and look at the positions. They're nowhere near. There's no involvement there.
Where is our fitness? Obviously, they're all on the other side of the pitch for some reason. It's just not.
There's no athletes in the team. There's no athletes. There's one athlete, and it's Decore. Yeah, Decore and Godfrey are the only athletes in the team.
I agree. Decore is the difference, and he would cover more ground than has been expected of these two midfielders.
But Steve, that switch of play, that's a stupid switch of play then if he knows that it's just creating a 2v1. Why bother? He's only going to check back inside, pass it to Davis, and we're back at square one. But anyway, I mean, looking at this really winds me up. Basil, show us the next frame.
So this one is what I call the no shape frame. Because basically it's a lot of Everton players responding to Palace positions rather than being in any sort of shape, and I felt like we were like that the whole game, getting run ragged. But what you've got James, Gomez, Davies, they're all in the same miniature triangle. And the back line, it's all Coleman's miles up there, and there's a huge gap to exploit for Palace to run into where Keane is. So yeah, I'm not convinced on the shape, as you've probably seen. And then I wanted to pick out, based on the shape again, this is a frame where we are in shape. We've got the full back line. You can see there, you've got Davies, James, and Sigurdsson at this point on the pitch. And Palace have got their three attackers down the bottom of the screen. So you'd think we were comfortable there, wouldn't you? You'd think, well, we've got the men back. We're in shape. Second frame from this same piece of play, we've been run all over the place. Coleman's dragged into the middle of the pitch. Davies has ended up at right back. Keane's chasing the ball, going out to the right to Zaha. And then by the third frame, we were talking about a matter of 2-3 seconds. A couple of quick 1-2s by Palace. There's huge spaces on the edge of the box for their, I don't know who it is, the midfielder, Riedeveld, I think. And Zaha's picking the ball up in a dangerous area. So, back five, but it doesn't seem to stop Palace getting opportunities. They play 2-1-2s and they're right onto us.
I mean, just bear with us just click off the screen in just 1 second. We're just going to come back to that. We're just going to say goodbye to Steve. Steve, thanks for joining. We'll see you on the next video.
Thanks so much. Always a pleasure. Look forward to the upcoming fixtures. We've got Brighton away. Of course, it doesn't really matter whether they're home or away because there's no fans in the ground at the moment. Although trials are being set out, and we hear that the FA Cup final will have 21,000 non-Everton fans as a result of our City match. And but it's good news because it means that hopefully we'll have fans back in the ground soon. And of course, we've got a nice cheeky classic clash against Tottenham Hotspur at home on Friday the 16th, which should be another 9-goal thriller. So that's all from me. Always a pleasure joining the show, and thanks, guys.
Thanks, Steve. See you later. Dave, let's get back on just before we lose people watching because they think it's finished. By the way, I don't know why my face is red. I think it is something to do with the fact my ring light, I've got like a front-facing light. My girlfriend's taking it to do some makeup. So now I'm left with this strange red light in front of me. But I need to get that back off because it's very annoying. But bear with us. Dave, go back onto the screenshot you've just shown. Everton seem to be very easily outdone by any sort of movement. And it's almost like the thing we need is the thing that we're most weak to. And Steve Ellie says, no shape, no system, too slow, very unfit. He's really not happy with the fitness levels, the organization, and Carlo in general with this. But how much is this just down to sloppiness and not anticipating or reading the game, and also looking at the way Holgate is just, he likes to do this, doesn't he? He likes to get behind the ball, and it's infuriating because those two could just step up and play people offside, but he seems to want to be as far back as possible, and that really winds me up.
Yeah, well, you'll see with the goal, and I think we've seen previous goals conceded in the last month where there's been one of our backline who's playing a man onside, which is very frustrating to see. But I think you've just hit the nail on the head when you said we weren't reactive. We weren't proactive. We're always reactive to a Palace move. So Sigurdsson's chasing out to the ball, and the Mills move, and then everyone's chasing out. We're never in control of the situation in any sort of piece of play that the opposition has, and it's often where we get undone at home against in transition, not having any control. I've got this last clip, which is to do with the goal we did concede, and again, we're in the shape just before the goal is going to happen. So it just doesn't make any sense. But
what I don't get right there, why isn't Dean a little bit tighter to the left back, or a little bit more aware of him? Because you've got, is that Holgate? He's marking no one. He's serving no purpose. I think, a lot of defenders, and what that done is, it means we can't press the ball because we're letting them come too close to us. Godfrey, do we have anything else?
No, this is the last one. I think this is a couple of minutes before the goal goes in.
So what did you want to highlight about this?
Well, about this, I wanted to see what you thought about the way that we changed to this system in the last, when Hammers went off, it all became drop back, and this was the shape we were in. It was a 5-4-1 with Sigurdsson and Richarlison on the wing.
I made it clear I'm really, really unhappy. I mean, you don't need to show this anymore, but I'm really unhappy with the substitutions. I'm really unhappy with the fact we let them come on to us for the last few minutes when they've got players that can hurt us. And the Godfrey substitution wasn't the best, but maybe Coleman needed to come off. The Gbamin one I don't get at all either. I don't like the Sigurdsson in the midfield three on the left. It doesn't have the same level of influence either.
If I give you my perspective on the three substitutions, so the Godfrey one, he's not match fit. He's been one of our most consistent performers. You can see why you would put him on when you were defending a lead. What I didn't understand was why he was put into right wing back. That just can't work. I don't know what he was expecting from that. And then got the Gbamin one. Well, I just think we had nobody on the bench for midfield, and I think Ancelotti is just desperate to give him some minutes for his confidence. And
we're not a charity.
Well, it was
and
more
come
like
on, and he's just like, he doesn't really know what he's doing.
No,
I know it's going to take time.
It's going to take a while. We need to be really patient with him. People are going to come out and say he was crap, but he has
25 million.
Yeah, and
he's a 25 million pound player.
In training, he's seen all the qualities of a top midfield player, and I don't doubt that. I just think he's going to need a lot of time, and he hasn't really played with these players, has he? And we've had new players come in since he joined the club, and a new manager, so he's got to adapt to all that.
I look at the game yesterday and think we didn't create a lot. The chances came from their mistakes. Their chances came from our mistakes. Then they did create a couple of chances late on. We had a warning sign where they nearly scored. I think it got flashed across the goal. And I think then we should have realised. And actually, I think we should have tried to control the game and go for another goal. And just we inviting team on and sitting back, and the shape where you've got everyone in defense means it's they get to the last defender before a challenge is made because we haven't got enough numbers.
It was a really strange balance with the back five.
Makes sense.
And a lot of the time it was a back three with Dean and Coleman pushing on. But that midfield three was kind of forced by the injury to Gomez. It was strange because we had two basically, cams playing in the CM role either side, and they often just disappear up the pitch and leave Davies on his own, and it kind of changed the way we had to play anyway. I think he was forced into playing Sigurdsson. I don't think he wanted really Sigurdsson to be on the pitch, did he?
To be honest, Steve, part of me wanted to see him, but I thought, we'd have to be comfortable with the game. And I don't think the way it was going, it was looking comfortable in those last 10 minutes because they were making a lot of attacking substitutions. I am really frustrated. I mean, I'd be interested to know what people think about Carlo's substitutions and Carlo's tactics for that game. And I'm starting to think that he doesn't know his best team. He doesn't have a system. He doesn't have a style of play. And that worries me. It's almost like he's just trying to do what he can to get through this period and then build again in the summer. But how many more transfer windows is he going to need before we've got a team where it's his players? And because he's not going to sell half of them who were bought by different managers who are good players. But at the same time, he doesn't seem to have a style, or he hasn't adapted or put something together. It's like this comment here. I know it's another one from Steve, but he says it's like watching a gang of pissheads playing in the park on a Sunday afternoon. Unfit players. And I think the bottom line is, in the summer, sign a right back, sign 2 wingers, or at least 1 winger, someone who can beat a man and cross the ball, and the team will be so much better. Invest in that position, because we can't afford to have players who will turn up one week and won't the next. And that's why he's given up on those wingers, and he's doing the diamond and he's doing the 5 at the back.
We didn't have any wingers available yesterday.
Was Iwobi not on the bench?
Squad, no. Iwobi's picked up a knock.
Okay, sorry about that.
So he was kind of forced into that situation. But I know you touched a minute ago on the fact we didn't really create anything. I had a look at the expected goals in the game. We created apparently an XG of 2.53, so 2.5 goals, compared to Palace's 0.6. So
they robbed us. To be honest,
we should have won 2 or 3-1 maximum.
Well, we know they robbed us.
Well,
we didn't play well, but they robbed us.
And I've seen a lot of comments all over the place saying Palace were good, Palace were better than us. I just don't believe that. But we just didn't take the chances ultimately, and it started in the Burnley game for Calvert-Lewin of missing these obvious chances, and Richarlison seems to have taken the same medicine that Calvert-Lewin is.
Yeah, doing the stupid taking people's free kicks as well.
Playing them both together is hindering their chances of scoring. It doesn't give them the opportunity to stay central in that area and pounce on things.
I want the 2 strikers, but I want it on the basis of them being foxes in the boxes. Richarlison with a little bit more license to come and link up and drop off and come out to the wing and make overloads. I don't see that. I think
he does
track
that doesn't
back.
happen because of the crosses, which Steve touched on before. We don't put any crosses in, so there's no need to have any foxes in the box. You may as well be Man City and play everyone in midfield and pass the ball through if you're not going to cross it.
I think yesterday we could have really done with playing Richarlison on the left. I looked at it, and he tracks back. He comes into midfield a lot when it's defensive shape, but on the offensive shape, he needs to have more flexibility. And I know he wants to be a striker, but he needs to be prepared to come out to the wing like he did for the goal. He can't be so rigid, because when we're playing with these static wing backs and we're trying to accommodate all these players, the 2 forwards and Rodriguez, but then you've got a light midfield. So it's going to be really difficult to find a solution where you can play both Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin, leave James in the team, also find some width, not leave yourself too exposed in midfield. It's a difficult one. And, whether we go back to the 4-3-3 to try and find a solution for that long term and have to go out, and maybe we just have to say, well, we can't play the 2 strikers, or have 2 holding midfielders, 2 wingers, Calvert-Lewin at front, and say to Richarlison, you're the one who kind of drops into the 10 position. And we're going to just supply deliveries, and you can get forward when we've got the ball, or you can drop off to track back. It's difficult to know what to do, because I don't think we can accommodate them all.
This is the evolution of the way the season's gone, that Ancelotti's looking at the squad and thinking, who are my best players and how do I get them all together? And that's what we've resulted in the formation on yesterday, because obviously it shows the centre-backs have performed well over the season. So we put 3 of them in. I'll put my 2 good, decent fullbacks in. I've got my 2 strikers up front, and I get James in with some cover in the midfield. But it doesn't really work, does it?
I think we had enough on paper
Too
to win
much.
yesterday. Enough quality. I think if you drop one of those and put a winger in the team, the thing is, Richarlison just what he was doing at the start of the season was okay. You know, he's off the left, go and get in the box on the end of the crosses, and you know when the link up and the build up's on your side, help out on that side. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just he was just out of form, wasn't he? And at the end of the day, you've got to keep the players happy, and he doesn't want to be out on the wing. He wants to be up front. You know, it might come down to the fact we have to sell him and reinvest the money in the positions that we need to do.
Well, Richarlison, he had a stinker, didn't he? What did you think of him grabbing the ball for the free kick?
Maybe he's been practicing them in training and has been scoring a lot. Or I admire the fact he wants to take responsibility and try and do something, but obviously he hasn't got a cultured right foot. He's an excellent header of the ball. He's a fantastic finisher in the box, and he's got a bit of flair. But I think the majority of his chances have to be created for him. And as I say, playing without wingers doesn't play to his strengths. And also, Steve saying, has Carlo lost the plot? I think, in a way, his hands are tied slightly by the players he's got available. I mean, in fairness, he hasn't had the full selection available like he had the first 7 games, and he's suffered because of that. And that obviously comes down to the comment that Steve made before, Steve on the video, saying we need rotation. What he meant by that was we need players of similar quality or quality that can come in like for like, rather than this huge drop off. But the free kick situation, I think he was wrong, but I admire the fact he wants to take responsibility for it.
I think that Ancelotti's just biding his time to get to the summer, so he can get some players in, because at the moment he knows if we get into Europe, we will really struggle to play 2 matches a week with the squad we have and the amount of injuries we pick up.
So anything else you want to talk about in relation to the game? I mean, I know there's a burning feel of deflation. I mean, anyone else watching as well, if you've got anything you want us to talk about?
It's just you're looking at it now, and you look at the season gone by and who's around us. You look at Spurs, you look at Liverpool, you look at Villa a bit behind us. We've got West Ham. You know, these are inconsistent sides as well, but at the moment they started to pick up form, and I worry that they're about to go on a run, and they have a much better mentality in these final 9 games where they're going to pick up the points they need, and we're going to end up sitting in 8th and just falling short.
I have a feeling we will finish 8th. I don't want to be negative, because I've said many times I thought we'd get top 4, but obviously just some of the things I've seen in recent weeks, I'm now thinking we are going to be the 8th place team again. And those teams yeah, but you can argue that none of them are, because they're all just as bad as each other. Everyone drops points to anyone, and it's just who's the most consistent and who's making the least mistakes. I think we need to try and find a system that works and stick with it. And if that means sacrificing certain individuals, then so be it. What was so bad about the 4-3-3 with Rodriguez off the right and Richarlison tucked in off the left?
Well, I think we've just gone past that. It worked really well for the first 7 games, didn't it? But it got found out that we were so weak on the right side. And I think it depends on Coleman being fully fit, and it depends on, Yutakore covering all James' loose ends on that right side.
But that was a good team, and I'm being honest with you, apart from the derby, I think that's really the only time we had a plan those first 7 games. It was really quite
fluid,
what we were doing.
We were fluid on the ball for once, which is something we haven't really seen the last few years. I think the most joy we had this season consistently was a 4-2-3-1 with the 4 centre-backs. And I'm not saying we go back to playing 4 centre-backs, but maybe we have to play the 4-2-3-1, as in we have 2 solid defensive midfielders on the pitch, and then we say to James, you go and have a free roam. Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, go up the pitch, stay forward, and then the rest of them, it's sticking more of a shape.
How many other teams in the league are doing what we're doing, where one week they're playing this formation, the next they're playing another formation, and they're chopping and changing, and it's 4 centre-backs, and it's 3 centre-backs, and it's 5 centre-backs. I don't think there are many teams that do that. I think there's a style of play,
No,
and I think Everton is all about aggressive, fast football, and we don't see that.
is it? We've never seen that.
I think no matter who comes in, that should be the style that we're trying to
Should be the
do.
style. Well, if we had the full fit squad, I mean, what formation would you want to play?
Well, the problem is I don't know who the centre backs are. I'd probably say Keane and Godfrey, and then Dean and Coleman. But then they've proven they can't. They don't work as a back four. They concede too many goals.
I think where
And
they
then I
don't
have
work
Alan
as a
and
back
Decore.
four is
I'm answering your question in the lineup. Alan and Decore as my two, James in front, and then I'd have three strikers. Because I think you've got solid base there, and then you've got your three strikers. And if they need to go out wide to track back, so be it. And if we've got in possession, the fullbacks bomb forward and the three stay up front. I know that relies on us signing a new right back and a right winger. So fine, do that in the summer. I think that might work for these players. Right now, I mean, honest to God, I couldn't tell you because I think they're all as bad as each other. All these systems are terrible. And I'm very, very wound up by it all.
Yeah, but I think we've proved we can play four at the back, away from home, with someone like Dean and Coleman in full back and attacking fullbacks and still get results. But I think when we play that at home, they wander up the pitch and we leave ourselves isolated. And I think that's why we ended up playing a 3 yesterday, because I think Ancelotti's trying to avoid us getting caught out on the transition.
Those three defenders don't
so
bring the ball
confusing.
out. They don't bring the ball out of their static positions. We were playing without an extra midfielder and they just stand there, side, 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 side. The only one who was playing anything was Holgate. Clearly a tactical thing. I'm going to give Ancelotti credit to that. Put him on the left centre-back so he could ping them out. That was really good. I like that. But the other two don't do anything. And then Davis, his distribution's shocking. So there's no midfield there, and two defenders who are not really doing anything, and then there's no wingers, there's no outball. It's fundamentally flawed. I think if you're doing the 5 at the back, the defenders have got to be prepared to step forward into midfield. They've got to be prepared to carry the ball forward. They've got to have good range of passing, and I'm not sure we have that.
No, I'm not sure about that. I mean, we haven't seen enough of the back 5, have we? We saw
I've only ever seen it work once.
We saw it
That was
early in the
Anfield.
season, and it was a disaster. And then we brought it back in the last few weeks, and it's been up and down, hasn't it?
Traditionally, it doesn't work for us. It's worked once at Anfield, and Liverpool went great. And I don't know how we got away with that.
Yeah,
Because I don't think the system doesn't work. But that was supremely coached. That was Ancelotti at his finest. And I don't know whether he's putting the same level of intensity against Crystal Palace. Because I'm thinking, hang on a minute. Your fullback's your main source of creativity in the system. But they play with wingers who are going to love that. I'm going to get 1v1 versus your tall centre-backs who've got no mobility. Please. It just seemed wrong.
it's
And then
strange.
bringing the substitutions on.
He used that formation to play against Liverpool and Man City, who historically last year were the best teams in the league. And then when he plays his Crystal Palace, he kept that formation. I think people would have been a bit shocked by that. So maybe that's a sign that we are moving to this 5 at the back more permanently. We'll have to see.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I like the 4-3-3 with natural fullbacks, 2 holding midfielders, and the 3 strikers with a bit of flexibility. One stays central, and the other 2 can come off onto the wings if needed, or support the striker. I liked that, and I thought we had a plan. But obviously, it doesn't work when there's injuries, and he's just trying to do what he can. All right, we're going to wrap things up. Thank you for watching. Follow Everton. If you watch on YouTube, you can subscribe. If you're watching anywhere else, you can't subscribe, but you can like the video and you can comment, and we'll pick up on things. I'm sure we're going to do another video very soon, probably before the next fixture. But of course, as usual, we will preview. And if we don't do a match reaction on the day, we'll follow up with a video within the day after. So thanks for joining. Thanks, Dave, for your time, and really well prepared with the screenshots. I think that added some really good value to today's video. So take care, guys. Thank you.
Bye.